Well, what a day today. Oh my goodness. So market's selling off big today. You've got the S&P down 6.25 points this morning so far, and well, it was a choppy one. You pair up the slow summer market with the market selling off today, and it's just not a fun combination, to say the least. So we're gonna walk through everything well, to preface this, it was a very small red day today. Yesterday was a very good day. We came in, had a 100% win rate yesterday, trading the top stocks, GXAI, Lace. It was Benny. It was a really good day yesterday. I mean, amazing, considering the market that we're in. And, well, we came in today. I had high hopes, but I was starting small size. I sort of got my feet wet a little bit, trying to make something work. You want to start small, and we'll talk through a whole lesson on this in this video as well, about how to size and keep your red days as small as possible so you can actually come back from them relatively easily. And today was one of those things where AUD, BTAI, GLE, THAR, GXAI, NVNO, and NCT. It's a mouthful of setups. And so let's go ahead and dive into it and see what we had here. And I'm going to say it wasn't a bad day in terms of execution, but opportunity was horrible. The opportunity in the market today was absolutely crap. So we're going to start looking at AUD here. We'll go through the first few trades and sort of break it all down for you. There was some good stuff this morning, but there's also some stuff just wasn't moving right. So start with AUD, and this thing looks pretty good. Massively beat down on the daily time frame. We had room here back towards 340, and it looked pretty good, 340 and 4. And we had the break of this tightening wedge off the lows, and so it looked pretty dang good this morning. And so what we had is we had it consolidate here above VWAP, and then breaks up to the high. I tried to take a micro pullback off this previous high for the leg higher. Well, I don't get that. And so that doesn't go my way. And so then I'm able to take it again. Thankfully, we see it pull back into this past area of demand where you can see here these wicks off the lows from pre-market. We then take it off this pullback after we found a buyer step in off the 50 moving average and take it there with a pretty nice play, at least to get back to profit on this from 285 back to 3. And so I at least get some profit back on the day here after that. And again, here though, this sort of sums up the morning. You take a little win. That's just how the morning felt. Really the entire morning. We had some really good trades on BTAI, but again, follow through sucked. And look at the knife off the high here. Oh my God. So again, you had a great setup here from last night's watch list. And, I was watching it today off the lows because we had this awesome looking daily. I mean, look at this. This super wide sort of flag forming here on the daily. And I think this does set up still soon. I think it still goes eventually. Obviously, that day was not today. But we had this super nice range to trade here today. And so I see it find a buyer out of the bell. And I was wanting to see this really get going today, back up into the sixes. Of course, that did not happen, but that was the plan. And all that being said, still played it really well. We watched it break up through VWAP at the open. I gave it a chance to find and confirm a buyer here off of the moving averages. And it pulls back. It finds a good buyer. I take a pullback entry, and I get a nice move here. I get a move here. I even get an ad for the break of the high. And, I played it from 504 all the way up into the 515s. And then I look for another ad over that high to look for the move higher. I'm trying to make something happen, trying to get the ice really get breaking here to really tack on some profits. And then we see this. Per my system, and this is how we avoided this massive knife, per my system, if a 1 minute candle, or really whatever time frame you're trading on, breaks to a new high like it did here and instantly rejects, that is my sign for an instant exit. And that's how you avoid nasty rug pulls like this. Whenever it grabs liquidity over the high, I want to be out. So took the exit there, was able to lock in small profits on this as well. And so again, we're just taking these really small win, small loss. And so again, you're sort of back and forth getting all churned around. Then we go to GLE. Now again, good trades here. Really good trade. We had a great daily setup. Super beat down on the daily. Massive gap to fill to the upside. But I didn't like it back here. I was watching it back up over VWAP back here for these curls back up through its highs, and it ended up making the move. But this thing had a massive spread this morning. It's a 90-cent stock, and I believe it had a 2 or 3 cent spread. And you're like, well, that's not a massive spread. But on a 90-cent stock, that's a 2 or 3% spread. That's a pretty serious spread. So I didn't like how it was trading. I was really concerned it was going to just knife through VWAP because of that spread. I couldn't bring myself to play it. So waiting for that spread to tighten up. We saw it break over the high of day with volume. Take a look down here. We saw volume sort of decreasing off these pullbacks to VWAP. But as it broke over the high of day, that volume started to swarm back in. So I took the break. Of course, it breaks out. We get the 1 minute pullback for an entry, micro pullback off this past high. And get a nice move here from about $1 back up into the 107s for a nice little quick base hit. I then saw it hesitate off this high. The tape started to slow. and took my exit off the high of day. So again, I was very happy with the execution on there. So as you can see so far, execution was perfect. And you'll actually see that I actually executed to a T today, except for one stock that I regret taking today. It looked really good on the 1 minute, but on the daily, it just was not there. I knew it wasn't there. I still took it because it was so slow today. I was hoping to try and make something work, and it just didn't. We'll save that for last, though. So moving on over to THAR, another really good one today that, well, it started out good and then got a little bit choppy. And, what's new? And so we had this breakout at the open today, and, well, sort of. Ascending channel formed after the bell and finally gets breaking out over VWAP. I liked it here, but I missed the play. And so what I ended up doing is playing it up into the highs here. You can see, played off that first 1 minute micro pullback, which we also had. You can see right here the break of the 200 moving average here over 170. And so you actually had a pretty good setup here. You can see right here, 200 moving average sitting right there at the 170s. Then we had room to 2 and 250. And so you actually had a pretty good setup, but the way this traded again was just so wide and so choppy. You can see through here. I played it really well initially from 182 to 193. And then all through here, I'm trying to take these pullbacks for the breakup higher. You can see here, I'm looking for price to reverse here back up through its highs. It doesn't, so I take a little loss there. And so like I was saying from a few minutes ago, a little loss. And by now, I'm still playing with small size this morning because nothing looks great. And so then again, price pulls back and we see confirmation off of these higher lows where you have this base form from earlier in the morning, which you've also got VWAP right beneath price as well. We have VWAP sitting right here. It's hard for you to see because of the colors. But VWAP sitting right here beneath price. And so we see it pull back and find a buyer off of VWAP. So I take a re-entry for the break back higher. And I get a nice little move again. And so again, I'm saying small win. So again, it's just rinse and repeat. And so here, 178 back to 192. And so another nice little play. And so then again, we're sitting here watching this thing later in the morning and I'm almost shutting down. It's to the point where I'm looking around and there's just really nothing moving. Volume's extremely slim. And it's just one of those things where, what do I do? Do I sit around and wait for more opportunities or hope that something comes along? Do I shut down? Well, I waited. And thankfully I did because I saw this come along and it was a perfect setup where we actually got a pretty significant move here to end the morning off an amazing note. Now, this thing continues to chop around, tries to break out of the range here. As it rejects back beneath, this is a grab of liquidity. This becomes an area of overhead supply, which I then tried to use for an entry on this entry over here, which you'll see in a minute. And so then price pulls back, puts in place a bottom again. You can see here, puts in place a bottom off this previous higher low, which you can see here. Below, you have this higher low range formed. And so now I have defined risk to look for a bit of a pullback. Well, I see price then pull back again off the bottom of this range and find a buyer. There's my entry opportunity for the range back up to the top of the range. And we got that exact move here. And this thing literally popped off the screen. It was so quick. Look at the volume here. This thing literally popped off of the screen. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. This thing literally popped from 209 to 245 in a matter of seconds. Yeah, it was insane. And so did really well here again. And so again, I was playing with small size still, but had a nice size win. And then I tried to add back on the micro pullback here. Take a look. I added some small size back for the micro pullback here for the break back higher. And obviously didn't get it, but was able to at least take this out a little bit above entry because we saw it hesitate. I had my stop loss raised and traded it well. But again, that was all this on THAR. And so again, I had no way to really lock in and get traction. I had no way to really build up proper cushion. I traded it very well. I wouldn't have done anything differently, but just no traction. Then you move on over to GXAI. I had a nice little play on this at a market open today. I'll zoom back and show you. I played the breakout of the bell, took it from 190 to 192, but nothing to really talk about here. NVNO also, this was a pretty uneventful play. I saw this thing break out at the open and sort of pull back, and so I was trying to take it here off these lows for that move back higher. And of course, we didn't get that. This was a great setup though, because we actually had this halt up at market open, super beat down setup with a massive gap to fill to the upside. Let me look at this here. And so I tried to take it over that high. You can see right here for the move back higher. Just didn't get it. It was a great setup though. And again, kept that at least break even. And then last but not least on NCT was the one that I really shouldn't have taken today. It was a great looking setup, tons of volume. When I say tons of volume, this thing was actually trading tons of volume at the time. And it looked really good. Daily time frame did not. And I knew it didn't, but I still took it because there was nothing really moving. And I said, well, let me try to do something here. And so you can see here, I was taking it off the VWAP here. We saw this previous low get put in here off of, what, 320. And so I take it here off the pullback for the curl back higher because we had tons of volume. We had a perfect float. Everything was perfect except for the daily. Guess what? I took it and I met the consequences. So as far as this here, the 1 minute setup was fine. Perfect. Typical setup here. Whenever we have volume, take a little micro pullback, move back higher. But you look at the daily time frame and you're like, wow, I see why you didn't like this. And so we look at this here on NCT, and guess what? Lower high. I knew we didn't have any range here until we got over 4, yet I played it anyways, like the goofy guy that I am. And this is actually why I'm small red today. If it wasn't for this, I'd actually be small green today. But we're humans at the end of the day. It's one of those things where the risk to reward was there for me. I liked the setup, tons of volume. I was looking for this to get squeezing over 4. And clearly, that did not happen today. I was looking for at least a retest of this high. But after finding that rejection there off the 385, well, I guess really we had room up to, well, no, actually 370 was right there on the daily. So we had just rejected off the top of its trend. And so from there, we just have to leave it alone. And that's what I didn't do this morning. So it is what it is. So yesterday, 100% win rate day. Really good day yesterday. About a 5-bar day yesterday with nothing but just after win. Then you come in today and you got a little quarter or red day, minuscule, but nonetheless. Just one of those really choppy days, man. It's been a bit slow this week so far. Monday was pretty slow. Yesterday was really good. Today was pretty slow. But what you've got to understand is you just have to come in starting small. You come in with the expectation of, look, the market's been slow. So we got to go in with that expectation that it's going to be slow today. And so you start small with, say, a quarter or even a half, or really a quarter of your typical risk, and try to break the ice a little bit. Try to build up some profit cushion. And that way, if you don't build up any cushion, if there's no good opportunities, you're staying sized down. So you have less exposure naturally on the choppier, slower days. You see what I'm saying? And then on the days where there is opportunity, you build up that cushion, you can actually take some more risks. You have more exposure. And so you have more exposure on the green days, less exposure on the red choppy days. Ability all works in your favor that way. So you have to make sure you're sizing properly. If you're not, days like this are going to chop you up, chop you to death. But by sizing properly, sizing down, understanding and expecting, being aware and just accountable of your actions in a slower market like this, it's key. There is still money to be made right now, but you have to do it in a logical, smart, systematic way. Yesterday, like I said, was amazing. Overall, it's a green week, but only if you keep exposure down on choppy, slower days, which is why you start every day small. You come in, you sort of get your feet wet a little bit. If it starts to get going, let's start sizing back in. So that being said, that's today. Hopefully you guys had an awesome day today. I know I at least traded well. I'm happy with that today. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I think tomorrow will be pretty good, hopefully. But all that said, hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something. And if you did, make sure to subscribe for daily content just like this. And of course, as always, make sure to check the description down below. Claim your 7-day free trial to watch me trade stocks just like this in real time every single morning. Get alerts, education, watch list, chat room access, and so much more. And all that said, hope to see you there. And if not, I'll see you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.